Hello and welcome to Spotlight on Middlesex County, where we share the latest news on events, services, and programs throughout the county. I'm your host, Middlesex County Board of County Commissioners Director, Ron Rios, and I'm glad that you could join me. Today, I'm at the North Brunswick offices of the Middlesex County Office of Consumer Affairs, where we'll be learning about the important work this office does and their new campaign against consumer fraud. My guest today is Elsie Foster, Director of Consumer Affairs for Middlesex County. Elsie, welcome to Spotlight on Middlesex County, and thank you for being here today. Now, the Office of Consumer Affairs is one that I think a lot of people may not really know too much about or about the valuable work all of you are doing here. So, Elsie, maybe you could explain to our viewers about the core mission of the Office of Consumer Affairs.
It's really a wonderful opportunity that you're here to visit our office. We're excited to share about the work that is being done in this office. And one of the things that we strive to do is to protect the average consumer. We are a protection agency for consumer fraud for goods and services. And our team of investigators are certified by the Attorney General's office, and we work tirelessly every day to protect consumers.
I know you investigate violations of the Consumer Fraud Act. What types of activities are covered under the Consumer Fraud Act?
Some of the activities that are covered are goods and services. So if, for instance, if you bought a car and there is questionable behavior regarding the car, it doesn't work, those are some of the things that we protect. Any kind of goods and services that you purchase in a store that is questionable or defective, you can reach out to us and we provide protections as it pertains to those items.
And what are some of the issues the Office of Consumer Affairs does not do?
The things that we don't handle is labor disputes. We do not discrimination claims. Matters being investigated under arbitration, we don't handle those things. Private litigations, post office fraud, we don't handle. That's handled by the Postal Service. And tenant and landlord dispute, those are things that we do not handle in this office, or private litigations.
And maybe you can explain to our viewers what are the most common complaints or issues that you do investigate?
Unfortunately, one of the most common that we see is home improvement scams or home improvement fraud. This is such a timely opportunity to talk about this because as we're coming up into the spring season, this is when the fraudsters are out and they go knocking from door to door, offering products and services, and a lot of them are fraudsters. And they go out and their main target is senior citizens, and encourage them to do home repairs, which they have no skills or talents for, or different types of sales scams that we're barraged with nowadays, from the cell phone scams and everything else that we see.
And how does a consumer file a complaint with your office?
One of the things that they can do is to call us here at our office, which is 732-398-3200, or they can go to Middlesex County website and file a complaint there, or they can reach out to us directly, and the complaint form is online along with our contact information, and the forms are there they can fill out and send to us.
And let's say someone files a complaint with your office. How does your office decide if that complaint really warrants an investigation?
Well, once the complaint comes into our office, it is assigned to an investigator, and an investigator will do the research and make phone calls to the client and to see to get more details, ask for pictures, ask for dates, ask for times, do a lot of investigative work. And if it warrants further investigation, we will let them know. But I did go over some of the areas that we do not cover. So if it falls with any of those criteria, we'll go out and actively start the investigation.
So if the Office of Consumer Affairs decides to investigate, is there any other steps that you do that you didn't mention, like maybe walk me through the process of what happens with that complaint?
If we decide to move ahead with the complaint that it's one that falls within our criteria, the investigator at that time would start building a case, so to speak. So there's active investigations. We ask for pictures. We might visit the location. We contact the violator, so to speak, and we do a lot of documentation. If this warrants to where we can work something out with the manufacturer, the company, or the agency that's providing the service that the consumer believe or we believe that was fraudulent, we try to work to arbitrate something out amongst the consumer and them. If not, then it's get taken to one of our Middlesex County courts and it would be litigated there.
You also oversee the Office of Weights and Measures. That's correct, right?
That is correct.
And what can you tell us about the work the office handles? What types of devices does the office test and inspect? And what are the most common offenses or irregularities?
Well, our office is actively engaged in one of the most common things that we see is gas pump violations. So gas station violation is one of the big ones. We also handle inspections of oil delivery trucks. We scales, grocery stores. So we're a lot in the grocery stores and pharmacies, and jewelry stores to make sure that weights and measures are correct when it comes to what the consumer is actually purchasing. So, for example, if we go to a grocery store and something says it's supposed to be a pound, and the scale is not measuring a pound in weight, that's something for us to investigate. We certify these scales on a yearly basis as well. So if there was a scale or something where the weight is off, then we would put a pass sticker or a defective sticker on the scales. So we have certain measures that we have to follow under the Attorney General guidelines that must be in place for these businesses to conduct business and in a fair and equitable way to the consumer.
Are there any tips that you can share with our viewers as far as any issues or irregularities? And something that you mentioned is that you don't really think much about a jewelry store. A lot of common folks would think, well, we go to the jewelry store and we buy a ring or a necklace, and you don't think about the weight, the carat weight of that. And that's something that is very important that you just brought up.
Yes, it is, because as you pointed out, you go to a jewelry store and you're believing that what you're purchasing is actually that weight or that gram or that caliber. But if it's off, then one of the things that you can do, if you go to a store and purchase an item and you felt that it is not the weight or the gram is not correct, you can definitely reach out to our department here and we will have an investigator go out and investigate. As I said, we do go to these jewelry stores and other places to make sure that their scales and their measurement devices are correct and in compliance. So we do have a blue sticker that we actually share, and this is the sticker that they would actually see on a device to make sure that it's in compliance. However, if they went to a store and they saw this sticker and it says rejected, this is not something that the consumer that's not something they should be seen, or it's not something that they should even purchase from an item that shows a scale that's showing any of these defective devices. So a blue sticker is good. Any other color, not good. For example, another example is that if you went to a gas station, and we all see this, when you're driving down the highway, you see a gas station, you see gas prices being advertised. And the gas station might say regular, $2.99, premium, $3.29, and the other denominations, or high octane, $3.50. You pull into the gas station, and as soon as you pull in, you realize that the gas station, when you get to the pump, you see our blue sticker, it's on there, but there's no prices on top of here to say how much you're paying for the gas. That cannot be, that's fraud. Because at any time, you may have forgotten that it says $2.99 that you were paying for, but now you finish getting your gas and you realize you're paying $3.29 for regular gas. So that's consumer fraud. So that's something that should be called into our office and we will address immediately.
That's very important that you point that out, because especially today with the prices of gas going up and like you said, the different prices, sometimes it's different for cash or credit or debit. Right. And it's good that you bring awareness to that.
It's a with the price of gas going through the roof, and especially now that consumers need to be aware of the items that they can be defrauded easily. Or if you went to a gas station and there's no pricing on top, but you paid for the gas and you pull out and 10 miles down the road, all of a sudden your car is getting sluggish and something is going on with your car, which was perfectly fine. There may be water inside the gas tank. And again, that's why these seals that I showed you before, the blue seal is important. And if you went to a pump and you didn't realize there was a blue seal attached or there was not a blue seal attached, that means the pump is defective and there may be water in the gas lines. And you're now going to incur huge expenses trying to fix a car that was perfectly fine before. So these are the things that you would call into our office and let us know. And again, our number is 732-398-3200. Just reach out to us, email us, or go to Middlesex County website. Our complaint form is on there, and we're here to be your advocate.
I understand your office and the Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office are launching a campaign to educate the public and protect seniors from fraud. What can you tell us about that campaign?
Well, I'm awfully excited that we are working together to bring this campaign to bring awareness of what the consumer should be looking for. So we're going to be launching a mail campaign that will be mailed to every house in Middlesex County with our contact information to bring awareness. And if, as I said, we're going into that season now where you're going to see a lot of home improvement scams and other scams, or people come and say, hey, I'm in your area. I see that your sidewalk is broken. Let me just fix it for you. Those are scams. So you can either call the Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office or call your local police department, and they can give you a list of saying, yes, this is a fraudulent person. I'm not aware of any contractors being in the area that's being sanctioned, and the police department will come out. You can file a police report, or you can call the prosecutor's office or our office. So we're working in tandem to eliminate some of these fraudsters that we see all the time.
Are seniors a particularly vulnerable group when it comes to consumer fraud scams?
Unfortunately, yes. Yes, they're not immune to it, though, because the newest report that came out from the FDC said that young people between the ages of 20 to 30 years old have seen a huge increase, a 41% increase in scams. And while seniors over the age of 80 have seen 17%. But the numbers are still there that on a day-to-day basis, seniors are the ones that are most impacted by scams such as the grandparent scam, the government scams where you get these phone calls from the IRS, Social Security, where it's tax season now, so you're going to get a lot of those calls from saying that they represent the IRS, or that you've won the lottery, or that your grandchild has been in an accident. So we see a huge number of these scams that come across all the time, and people we want to bring awareness. That's what this whole campaign, what the prosecutor's office is about, is to bring awareness of these scams and that you would not fall prey to any of these deceptive practices.
And if anyone, a senior or otherwise, suspects that someone may be trying to pull a fast one on them, what should they do?
Immediately, if someone shows up at your door, and there's a lot of scammers now that are showing up in uniforms, especially if you did not order a service and someone knocks on your door saying, I'm here to provide a service, call your police department immediately. The first thing you have to do is protect yourself, so call the police department, close your door, get rid of that person, and then put in a complaint to us. Let us be aware. Let the prosecutor's office be aware that you have activities in your area, but your local police department is your first line of defense because they're there immediately.
You're absolutely so right, and you hear it. I mean, I've heard it from a personal friend, senior citizen, and she caved in, just automatically getting nervous, hearing that her grandson was involved in a crime and in jail, and it was thousands of dollars later handed over, and it's unfortunate. And that's why this is so important, that what your office does, and alerting people and working in tandem with the prosecutor's office. Thank you so much for joining me today, Elsie. And thank you to you and your entire team for all of the hard work that you do on a daily basis to protect the residents of Middlesex County. We really, really appreciate it.
As part of Middlesex County's commitment to preserving open space, the county recently announced plans to acquire 18.7 acres of open space in Metuchen. The land, which is a vital wetland ecosystem home to numerous wildlife species and approximately 165 different species of birds, will eventually become part of the Peter J. Barnes III Wildlife Preserve. This new addition to the Peter J. Barnes III Wildlife Preserve will provide many benefits of open space, including the preservation of essential habitats for plants and wildlife, the capture and storage of rainfall, and the protection of underground water sources. Planned improvements for public access include trails, boardwalks, a footbridge, interpretive signage, and convenient parking for visitors. Additionally, the county will enter into a conservation management agreement with the Borough of Metuchen to manage an additional 12 acres of open space located adjacent to the newly purchased land, which will provide the opportunity for possible future acquisitions. In late January, Middlesex County Board of County Commissioners Director Ronald G. Rios joined Congressman Frank Pallone Jr. and local dignitaries at Old Bridge Waterfront Park to announce $30 million in federal funding to reconstruct the eastern jetty currently sinking into Raritan Bay. Reconstructing the jetty will help protect the shoreline from erosion while further rejuvenating and preserving that area of the bay and waterfront. The funding is made possible through the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which Congressman Pallone fought for in Washington, D.C. In addition to the $30 million in federal funding to reconstruct the jetty, it was also announced that Congressman Pallone was instrumental in securing $5.5 million in federal funding for the dredging and survey of the Raritan River. The $5.5 million in funding will help reduce the risk and impact of catastrophic flooding due to climate change, while also improving the water quality for fish and other wildlife. The Middlesex County Board of Commissioners, in partnership with the Office of Health Services, the Department of Community Services, and other county departments and offices, recently launched the Middlesex County Community Health Team to bring information about county resources and programs directly to county residents. Through door-to-door visits, phone calls, and text messages, the Middlesex County Community Health Team will share important information about COVID-19 vaccines and testing, the county's telehealth program, emergency rental assistance, Replenish, MCAT, and much more. The team will also connect multicultural families on a more personal level by prioritizing bilingual communication to ensure residents are receiving support and relief. The county-wide effort began in February with door-to-door visits in New Brunswick and Perth Amboy before moving on to Carteret in March. Please note that the Middlesex County Community Health Team will never ask to enter your home. All members are credentialed with badges identifying them as the Middlesex Community Health Team and wear bright neon safety vests while they are working in the community. Additionally, all members wear masks and observe appropriate social distancing protocols while engaging residents. Be on the lookout for the Middlesex County Community Health Team in your neighborhood in the coming months.
Next up, we'll check in with the folks over at East Jersey Old Town Village, located in Piscataway's Johnson Park. This historic open-air village features restored and replica buildings from the 1700s to the 1800s. The village will open for its 2022 season early April. Take a look.
East Jersey Old Town Village's opening weekend is coming on April 2nd and 3rd from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Historical reenactors return to the village and Liberty Baseball Club plays its home opener. Admission and parking are free, just bring a blanket to watch the baseball team. Liberty Baseball Club of New Brunswick is also in search of players, both men and women. The Liberty Baseball Club plays baseball according to the rules, customs, equipment, and uniform specifications of the 1850s and beyond. Contact Captain Lawrence Major for more information. We visited East Jersey Old Town Village last summer and talked to some of the historical reenactors at the site. Take a look to see what's waiting for you at East Jersey Old Town Village.
Hi, welcome to the Pound House Garden. We have had such a prolific year. Look at these beauties. These are eggplant, and these are just three of the lovely things that have been produced here this season. The hot weather and all this rain have made everything just gorgeous. You can see that our herbs are growing really well. Herbs were very important in colonial times for flavoring foods and keeping everybody healthy. So it was used for both kinds of things. We have lots of things growing too. Our chives, our peppers, some more greens. They loved their greens. Salads were very important in colonial times. We kind of think if it's a modern thing, it wasn't. They got tired of potatoes all winter long, so the greens in the spring and summer were very much enjoyed. I'll take you over here to all these big growing things in the back. Those are pretty exciting. Over here we have some really amazing things. We've got some beautiful cabbage growing, which was very popular because that would carry you through the winter as well. And this jungle of growth over here is something the colonies used and learned from the natives that were here, called the Three Sisters. So we have the corn, which is, I've got some examples here. Growing in the corn, you can't see real well, are pole beans, and then these big beautiful leaves here are squash. So you grow all these three things together, and then you'd harvest, and that was the first succotash. So that there's lots of versions, but corn, beans, and squash were the first three ingredients of that. These are the beautiful corns that they would have gotten from the native peoples, and you can see they look a little different than our corn today. And they wouldn't have eaten them just off the cob. They're not as sweet as our sweet corn that we eat, but they would have taken them like this and dried them and made them into flour for different kinds of things like cornbreads or tortillas of other things. So it made delicious flour.
Yep, you're at East Jersey Old Town Village, and I am the stone cutter, representing the trade of stone masonry and stone cutting in early New Jersey. And the material that I'm using is about 200 plus million year old rock. It's called Jersey brownstone, and it was mined an awful lot throughout the 18th and 19th century. In fact, one of the earliest quarries was in Newark, New Jersey, which had great deposits of brownstone, and that was as early as the late 1600s. The material was used quite often for structural use because it was suitable for building material in large blocks. It's soft sedimentary stone, and as such it needed to have large block sizes to maintain structural integrity. If it was any thinner or narrower, because it's so soft, it would crack. A critic once declared this Jersey brownstone as the most hideous stone ever quarried. That, as soon as that hit the papers, it fell out of fashion. But the rich already had their brownstones in New York City, and a number of the gravestones over in Trinity Churchyard in Manhattan were also from Newark brownstone and imported right across the river. So I'm here just to bring attention to a trade and a craft that is largely overlooked, considering its historic significance, and largely I have to work in a more artistic vein here. Because if I was simply cutting out what they would call ashlar blocks, or any block of stone that is squared off on four sides, most visitors would be pretty bored. So I choose to do a more artistic side or sculptural side. In that respect, I would be a carver mason or perhaps a banker mason, those who would carve figurative or architectural detailing. But in early America, there was very little need for anything that was artistic, especially up to the 1820s or 30s. And sculpture itself didn't really take off till about that time too. Most Americans looked to Europe for the arts, and let's face it, America was mostly a utilitarian country, and stonework was kept specifically for things such as buildings, bridges, forts, barracks, fireplaces, stairs, even coach carriage steps. But no one was particularly interested in purchasing high statuary at that time. So at any rate, like I said, this was the way it was done, mallet and chisels, and a lot of back-breaking labor.
Welcome to the Jacob Vanderveer house. This house was built about 1745, was originally up in Bedminster, New Jersey, and in the 1970s, when Dr. Clare was collecting buildings to create this village, he got this house, and it was partly disassembled, transported here, and reassembled. There is still another Jacob Vanderveer house that is still up in the Bedminster area. One of the significant things about the Jacob Vanderveer house is that during the Pluckerman encampment of the Continental Army, General Henry Knox, who was George Washington's chief of artillery, stayed at the Vanderveer house and used it as his residence and headquarters. Whether it was this building or the other building, we don't know, but that is one of the reasons why we use this building to interpret soldiers.
Within the building, we've got this collection of long arms, rifles, and muskets from the Revolutionary War period, collection of reproduction uniforms. Speaking of the uniforms, I'm wearing the first establishment, or the first enlistment period, for the 3rd New Jersey. In 1775, the Continental Congress tasked each of the colonies to raise a certain number of regiments based on their population. New Jersey was tasked to raise 4. Colonel Elias Dayton raised his unit in the area of Elizabethtown. At that point in time, the colony or the colonel raising the regiment could select whatever they wanted for uniform, so there was some kind of uniformity within his regiment. I portray a sergeant in his unit. Ray here portrays a sergeant in a different type of New Jersey regiment.
Yes, during the course of the American Revolution, which, as Ed said, was a civil war, New Jersey also raised a number of troops to fight for the king, to restore lawful government. And in 1777, when they received their first uniform issue, they received these lovely green coats with white facings, white woolen waistcoats, white woolen knee breeches. Ed's wearing knee breeches, I am not. I'm wearing linen trousers, hats, and woolen leggings to cover your legs when you're wearing knee breeches. As I say, this was very much a civil war, in particular here in New Jersey. Here at East Jersey Old Town, we do try to tell the story of the Civil War that the American Revolution was, as well as the story of Raritan Landing, which was the village in Piscataway on the Raritan River, approximately where Landing Lane is today. That would have included the Lau House that overlooks the river today.
That's everything we have for this episode. My thanks again to Middlesex County Director Elsie Foster for joining me today, and to the Middlesex County Office of Consumer Affairs for hosting us. Thank you for watching this month's episode of Spotlight on Middlesex County. As always, more information about the topics we discussed today can be found on our website at www.middlesexcountynj.gov. On behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, I hope that you and your family are staying safe and healthy. Please continue to follow all safety recommendations regarding COVID-19. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll be back next month with another episode of Spotlight on Middlesex County.